savage surprise attack by two chimps on an American graduate student.
He's killing my friend!
Who's killing your friend?
My chimpanzee!
Conservatives will depict nature as a place of combat and competition, but it's just a conservative projection of their ideology on nature. Many anthropologists were extremely unhappy with the bonobo and tried to marginalize them because their story of human evolution doesn't turn around peace, it turns about warfare and male bonding.
Give us some examples of animal behavior that prove this kind of inherent morality in species.
Chimpanzees, for example, if someone is distressed because they have been attacked or they've seen a snake or whatever it is, then others come over and embrace them, kiss them and calm them down. But empathy is absolutely central. How could you have a moral system in human society if you don't particularly care about people? I feel that if we recognize the sentience of animals, there's an obligation to treat them better.
I was going to ask, so obviously we sit in the primate category just aside from monkeys, but the behavioral characteristics and the emotional characteristics, as like we've already, kind of implicitly covered throughout the whole interview, chimps and bonobos being the best example, vary quite differently. Chimps are very aggressive, bonobos less so. Chimps are less sexual, bonobos more so. In terms of applying insights about primates to humans and understanding our own psychologies, how can we balance between these competing forces and sort of draw conclusions in like where we sit, so to speak?
Yeah, so nothing is simple. People want a simple story. And that's why many scientists were very happy with the chimp, because their story of violence and territoriality fit with the chimps. They're forgetting that this is all based on East African chimps. The West African chimps are not like that. So if you look at the data on violent encounters and killing among chimpanzees, you're going to end up with a lot in the East African chimps and very little in the West African chimps. So even within the chimps, there's variation dependent on the ecology probably and where they live. And then we have the bonobo. And so it makes for a much more complex picture. I think there are certain universals for humans and the primates, like males are more physically aggressive than females. Females are very attracted to the young, and from a very early age, if you give them dolls and trucks, the females pick up the dolls and the males pick up the trucks. So there's these studies of play behavior. So yeah, there are some universal differences, but there's a lot of differences that people postulate that don't exist. Like they will say male make better leaders because they are dominant. Well, they're physically dominant, but there's a lot of female leadership in the primate groups, and they tend to forget that. Every primate group has an alpha female, and sometimes these individuals are extremely powerful.
I wanted to ask you about, returning to kind of our discussion about anthropomorphism, or the fallacy of saying, oh, that's anthropomorphism. Culture is one of those big things. Culture is seen, like language, to be uniquely human. And you kind of fight against that in your work. What are some of the manifestations of, for example, cultures little bits of culture that we see in primates just above biology?
Well, the reason that chimps and bonobos are so slow in their development, and the same is true for whales and elephants, who are very slow in developing. So chimpanzees are adult when they're 16. Humans are adult maybe when they're 20. So the slowness of development is because we need to learn a lot of things before we can be successful adults. Otherwise, nature doesn't like slow development. They don't like slow reproduction. So some animals have that, including the apes and humans. And that is because they need to learn so many things about what to eat, what not to eat, what to avoid, how to go about socially to be successful. All these things need to be learned.
Tool formation is another thing, I think, in anthropology that was postulated as one of the things that separated us out as one of the first things where we started to kind of develop away from the naturally occurring animal world. But you cited, right, that tool formation is actually very common in other primates as well.
And in birds, there are excellent studies now on corvids, the crow family, and parrots, who can not just use tools, but you can give them material to make tools, and they do that. So that whole field of tool technology has completely changed.
Yeah, because I mean, you've got this this idea when it comes to tools. I'm sure you've seen 2001: Space Odyssey. The idea that the dawn of man arrives when humans discover tools, and do you believe that that's kind of maybe a misconception?
Yeah, I would say so. I think human technology is very special, but not completely unique. So if I would rate the human, I would say socially and emotionally, we are primates. We're not particularly different from the primates. Technologically, because we're able to accumulate knowledge, you can read a book from the Middle Ages and learn something from it, which a chimp cannot do, because there are no books from the Middle Ages for them. So, that has changed everything. That's all cultural accumulation, especially in the last couple of thousand years. It is fairly new that we have things like cell phones and airplanes and stuff like that. But it's an accumulation. It's not a single individual who came up with the cell phone. The cell phone is a product of hundreds of years, thousands of years of thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that I know that you say that there's no kind of distinct line that separates humans and animals, but one thing that really kind of that shows this stark difference between humans and non-human animals or primates is language. Language seems to me something that allows humans to communicate between themselves and also to have more complex and reasoned out thoughts, because obviously species that don't have language cannot do that.
Yeah, no, language is very special. And we humans, we know how special it is. And we've tried to teach apes language, and it's not particularly successful, I would say. But I must add that if you would study human language the same way we study, let's say, whale song, with sonograms and analysis of peak frequencies and stuff like that, human language would not come out as necessarily very different. If you don't know the symbolism that's behind it, it will sound very similar. And I would say that orcas or chimpanzees, when they communicate, there may be messages in there that we don't fully understand yet. And so it may be more complex than we think.
I think orcas is a key example. People talk about orcas and dolphins as being one of the two. Dolphin being a mammal that potentially has like the strongest potential for language. I don't know where you sit on that debate.
Well, dolphins call each other by name. So they have signature whistles. Each individual has its own signature, and they recognize each other by that. But if they want the attention of a particular individual, they may mimic their whistle, which is basically calling them by their name. So I think we underestimate a lot of the animal communication still, and I think that picture will change. But really symbolic language, that's not something I think we're going to find in animals.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the episode. I just wanted to drop you in a word from our sponsor Manscaped. You can use the discount code LOAF to get your discount, because even a lion needs to tame its mane.
Get the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra from Manscaped now. Stay fresh with no cuts, so that your baguette leaves no crumbs.
Hey guys, we really hope you enjoyed that episode with Dr. Frans de Waal. If you'd like to see another episode just like this one, you can click right up here. Take care.